Good day everyone, my name is Jessie May Cedro and I would like to introduce and present to all of you our study. COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused from a newly discovered coronavirus that turned local outbreaks in Wuhan, China in December 2019 into global pandemic that is still ongoing. World Organization Health in 2020 stated that the virus that caused COVID-19 spreads primarily through droplets generated when an infected person coughs, sneezes, or speaks. In the outcome of mass testing of COVID-19 in the Philippines as of May 8, 2020, 10,463 of people have been tested as infected. 128 were the new cases. A total of 1,734 patients were recovered and 696 had died, according to the Statista Research Department in 2020. Before the COVID-19 pandemic take place, most of the students usually study in school, which is also known as face-to-face learning. According to Paul and Jefferson in 2019, it is a teaching guide where the teaching style and structure were delicate over numerous centuries. Facial instruction has many advantages that are not found in online learning. Standard classrooms supports face-to-face information and flexible content delivery. According to ABAD in 2020, the Department of Education or DepEd is moving to a distance learning approach for the following school year to consent to President Rodrigo Duterte's mandate to delay face-to-face learning until there is an accessible coronavirus immunization. Malipot in 2020 said that the DepEd finds a solution for the students to continue their studies by implementing distance learning that contains modular such as printed offline modules and other online technology that will be used by the students and teacher for their interaction. Acknowledging the great number of students who are learning through online and modular distance learning brought by the coronavirus in the Philippines, the researchers were impelled to conduct study to measure the ability of the learning modalities. In addition, this study could serve as a groundwork for an idea that aims to improve the quality of education in the Philippines. And the title of our study is Comparison of Students' Performance Between Online and Modular Distance Learning.
Statement of the problem. This study aims at determining the comparison on the students' performance between online and modular distance learning. Number 1. What is the profile of the respondents in terms of strand, gender, age, and mode of learning? Number 2. How can the performance of the respondents be described in terms of general weighted average? Number 3. Is there a significant difference in respondents' academic performance when grouped according to their profile variables? Number 4. Is there a significant difference in between the academic performance of the students attending online classes and students under modular distance learning?
Theoretical or conceptual framework. The study will be anchored on transactional distance learning theory by Moore and was published in 1997, which applies to both physical and psychological separation between the learner, the content, and the instructor. Transactional distance theory offers the quality of the learning relationship between the learners and their learning environment within separate learning situations. It explains the less the instructor directly interacts with the online learner, the more learner autonomy should be allowed and therefore the more structured the e-learning course should be. And this was conducted by Papas and was published in 2017. It also studies and compares the three factors of transactional theory, which includes students' participation in discussion, independent study, and understanding the topics that are used to measure the communication between the teacher and the student and that affects the learning relationship.
Figure 1, Model of Theoretical Framework. Figure 1 shows the variables in transactional distance theory. Moore in 1997 stated that the first factor dialogue refers to more than simply two ways of communication. The second factor refers to the nature of the course structure, which is described as the level of the course rigidity or flexibility. Third factor, learner autonomy, is contingent upon the previous two. It refers to the sense of both independence and interdependence perceived by learners as they engage in the course. According to Josos et al. 2009, learner autonomy is intimately tied with the learner's sense of self-direction or self-determination that are importantly affected by the discussion, the level of changes that is basic in the course design delivery, and the length of which is the learner utilizes controls over learning procedures.
Figure 2 shows the operational model relationship among the variables. First, the independent variable, that is the learning modalities, will be described in terms of online distance learning and modular distance learning. Next, the dependent variable learner's performance will be described in terms of general weight average. Respondent's profile will be served as intervening variable that connects the independent and dependent variables. Lastly, the researchers will determine the relationship between the independent and dependent variables.
To answer the main problem, the researchers will test the following hypothesis at 0.05 level of significance. H01 equal, there is no significant difference in student academic performance when grouped according to their profile variables. H2 equal, there is no significant difference in the academic performance of student attending online classes and student under modular distance learning. Assumption of the study. The researchers will base this study of the following assumption. Number 1. Online and modular distance learning has positive and negative effect to student performance. Number 2. The respondent experience problem in online and modular distance learning. Number 3. Senior high school students are honest in answering the survey questionnaire.
Scope and delimitation of the study. This study will mainly focus on the academic performance of students under online and modular distance learning. The profile of the respondents will cover strand, age, gender, and mode of learning. The academic performance of students will be described in terms of general weighted average. The respondents of the study consisted of 30 senior high school students from Binyan City, Laguna. 15 students were attending online classes and 15 students under modular distance learning.
Significance of the study. This study will aim at assessing the modality's reliability, review related studies, bridge the existing gaps, and help improve the quality of the education in the Philippines. The findings of the study will give great significance to the following. Prospective students may use this study as a guide on whether to study using modules or attend online. Students who make informed decisions like gathering information about the pros and cons in choosing modalities and whether it suits their preference and they are comfortable with it would be very helpful in studying effectively inside their home. This study can also bring awareness to the parents for them to help their children to cope with the problem that they are facing. They can also serve this study as their basis for guiding their children in having online and modular learning. The finding of this study will contribute to the benefit of the school administrators, considering that modalities like modules and internet play a significant role in the learning process of the student, giving consideration to the pandemic the world is experiencing today. The problems, complaints, and demand of the people will be reduced by more effective and suitable methods for student situations and preference. Therefore, schools that read the results and apply the recommendation in this study will be able to improve the performance of their students. The results of this study may enlighten the Department of Education to pay attention in monitoring the problem of the students and sustain possible solutions. The data could provide information that could help them to know the emotions of their students. The researchers themselves would be greatly benefit as this study would enhance their ability to communicate, fellowship, and socialization skills through the data gathering procedure. The process of this study in researchers will serve as an application of the knowledge that they obtain from their core subject. However, this study will also help when it comes to the understanding and finding solutions to certain issues or phenomena like the current situation in the Philippines, that is pandemic. The findings of this research will serve as a guide to the future researchers. They may use this as a basis in conducting a comparison of the students' performance between online and modular distant learning. It may help them to analyze the performance of a student between online and modular.
Research design. This study employs quantitative, non-experimental descriptive research design, which is intended to accurately and systematically describe a population, situation, or phenomenon, and to investigate one or more variables. Stanger 2011. Sources of data. The primary sources of data were the respondents who answered the survey questionnaire. Secondary sources include books, online journals, periodicals, and other references that the researchers utilized, consulted, and cited in the review of related literature.
Population of the study. The respondents of the study will consist of 30 grade 12 senior high school students from the city of Biñan enrolled during academic year 2020 to 2021, 15 students attending online classes, and 15 students under modular distance learning. The respondents must be an active grade 12 students that can be able to send their general weighted average at the end of their semester, whether they are studying online or modular distance learning, and must live in Biñan, Laguna. The respondents will be selected utilizing quota sampling strategy. The researchers will send the questionnaire via Google Sheet through personal message.
In gathering data, the researcher will utilize a closed questionnaire in which the respondents can answer the questionnaires by placing a check mark. The questionnaires was divided into two parts. Scale 1 will cover the profile of the respondents. Scale 2 will cover the performance of the respondents based on the given variables. The researcher instrument will be presented to the research advisor for initial checking. For the further validation, the researcher will consult experts in fields of language, statistics, and psychology who provide comments and possible recommendation for the research. Evaluation and scoring. To determine the comparison of student performance between online and modular distance learning, the questionnaire will be validated by an expert in the field of statistics and language. The following numerical rating and categorical response were used in describing the student academic performance in online and modular distance learning.
To determine the school performance of the respondents and their ability of the two learning modalities, the following numerical rating, numerical range, categorical response, verbal interpretation, and verbal description will be used in describing the comparison on students' performance between online and modular distance learning.
Data gathering procedure. After the validation of the instrument, the researchers ask for the approval from the Office of Senior High School Director to allow the researchers to conduct the study. The consent forms will be included in the Google Sheet, which will be sent directly to the target respondents through personal message. Then the questionnaire will be reproduced and released to the respondents via Google Sheet through personal message. The gathered data will be organized, tallied, and subjected to the statistical analysis.
Treatment and analysis of data. Once the survey questionnaire has been completed by the respondents, data were tabulated and subjected to the following statistical tools. Number 1, frequency, percentage distribution, and ranking were used to describe the respondent's profile. Number 2, weighted mean and standard deviation will be to describe the respondent's academic performance. Number 3, a test of difference will be used to determine the significant difference among the academic performance of the respondents, considering their profile, variable, and learning modalities.
Ethical consideration. The researchers complete this study bearing in mind the ethical considerations, especially on observing confidentiality, quality, and human subject protection. Since some of the respondents were still minors, parental approval was obtained as part of the consent form to be secured, explaining their right to voluntarily withdraw from the study anytime. The central purpose of the study, the procedures used in the data collection, comments about protecting confidentiality, statement about known risk associated with, and the expected benefits to accrue by participating in the study.